Murphy, the director of the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at UConn, and I'd like to welcome you to our annual Wolff New Venture Competition. While COVID has grounded our plans to travel together to Hartford for the event this year, we're able to get to our destination virtually. The Wolff New Venture Competition is a celebration of our entrepreneurial ecosystem here at UConn. These 5 finalists you'll hear from tonight have taken a journey through various programs at the university to help propel their ventures to the next level. I've had the privilege of guiding, coaching, and mentoring these 5 startups and can say that each of them have worked incredibly hard to get to where they are today. I'm so proud of what they have accomplished and look forward to having all of you hear their passion and motivation behind what they're building. These 5 startups have been selected as the most advanced ventures coming out of the university this year. Just having been selected to be here with us tonight is an accomplishment that our entrepreneurs should be proud of. The goal of the program tonight is to select one of these startups as the 2020 Wolff winner and award them with $20,000 in startup funding. This event would not be possible without the contributions of the Wolff family. I'd like to acknowledge and thank them for their continued support of CCEI and of entrepreneurship activities at UConn. They've been incredible supporters of our startups and our students. I'd like to first introduce John Elliott, the Dean of the School of Business at UConn. Dean Elliott has served in this role for 8 years, and prior to his time at UConn, has served as Dean of the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College. Dean Elliott has championed entrepreneurship, not just in the School of Business, but across the university. He has been an avid supporter of the Wolff New Venture Competition and of the Wolff family's contributions to the School of Business. Thank you for joining us tonight, Dean Elliott.
Jen, thank you for the introduction and thank you for leading CCI in this endeavor. As you point out, I've been privileged to be involved with the Wolff family for my entire time at UConn, and they have been remarkably strong supporters, dating back to the time when they really made some of the seed investment in this effort on behalf of UConn. So today, as you point out, we're able to celebrate what is really an ecosystem that has grown over the years, and each year engages more of our students, more of our faculty, more individuals, more advisors, more mentors, and the fact that all of those people come together in a group of enterprises and efforts and activities is extraordinary and exciting. As many of you know, the large gift by the Worth to create the Worth Institute happened a couple of years ago, and it wouldn't have happened if the Wolff family hadn't set the stage over 20 years ago, if others hadn't invested in a number of things. Keith Fox is an example of someone who has made IQ a major part of this ecosystem. So you mentioned, Jen, that many of these 5 finalists have gone through a program at the university. And I want to just remind us that that includes Get Seeded, that includes IQ, the Innovation Quest, it includes Accelerate UConn, it includes the summer fellowships that these individuals just finished, and of course now it culminates in the Wolff Prize. So really extraordinary experience and opportunity. I can't help but note that you said that we have built an entrepreneurial ecosystem at the university, and it's true. When I look at these 5 finalists, I'm mindful of the fact that they come from Connor, they come from CLAS, they come from engineering, they come from the health center, and of course, one comes from the business school. And I have to say that he is a repeat offender in the sense that he got an MS in financial risk management from us and is now working toward his MBA. So it's a university-wide endeavor, a university-wide activity, and we all work together to make it happen. So I want to thank the many of you who are mentors, the many of you who are advisors, the many of you who bring your talent to benefit these students. I want to just acknowledge John Fonfera as well. John is a distinguished state senator. I don't know if he's on the call. He may be.
He is.
He is. Okay, so it's my pleasure, Senator Fonfera, to invite you to give a few comments to the group. But I do want to acknowledge beforehand that you have been an extraordinarily powerful voice on behalf of entrepreneurship at the University of Connecticut. In your many years in the state Senate, you've been an advocate year after year for event after event, whether it was Next Gen Connecticut, the STEM rebuilding program for the university, wherever we turn, you have been part of helping us focus our attention, of helping the state focus its resources. And today, as I look at the ecosystem that we are developing as a university, there's much to thank you for, and I want to do so very publicly and very graciously today. So let me invite you to share a few thoughts with the audience today, if you would, Senator.
Thank you, Dean Elliott, very much for those kind words. And as I often say, I'm just a foot soldier in the process, and I continue to play that role. I want to thank you for all you're doing at UConn and have been for so many years. I want to thank Jennifer Murphy for her efforts in supporting and putting this event on today. The Wolff family, as Jennifer said, and their tremendous contribution in making this happen. Entrepreneurship, I stumbled upon it about 4 or 5 years ago, and it became my passion. As chair of the Finance Committee, Connecticut doesn't really know how to build an economy. We benefited from many entrepreneurs going back literally hundreds of years and putting Connecticut on the map. And now we find ourselves in a situation where we have to build one almost artificially. And we have great talent in Connecticut, and growing entrepreneurship has been a challenge for the legislature and for administrations. But in looking at some of the projects and the efforts here today, I'm excited by what's happening. As Dean Elliott just said, I see entrepreneurship growing at UConn by leaps and bounds. But the more important thing for me here today, the answers won't be forthcoming today, but the questions I hope will remain with the 5 finalists and others who are on this today. And that is, what can we be doing? We need to keep you here in Connecticut. We need to keep you here, not by sheer fact that you may have grown up here, that your families may be here, that your friends are here, this is where you've gone to school. Those are important things. But what can we do so that it's difficult for you to leave Connecticut? What can we do to put the challenge to you so that whether it's venture capital, whether it's mentorship, whatever it might be, that you feel most important is that Connecticut is the place to be. I'm a big sports fan, and a lot of my analogies are sports-based. But we should not be doing more to keep 7-footers in Connecticut than we're doing to keep you here in Connecticut. And those that will follow in your footsteps in this program, in this competition, or whatever it might be at the University of Connecticut. How can we attract the same kind of talent to UConn? Because that's the place where, if you're a young entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, that the University of Connecticut is the place where you want to go to school to pursue your passion. That's what we need to do. And I hope that I hear from any of you and all of you in terms of how the legislature, how the state of Connecticut can be a partner in making it easier, better, that your venture is successful. If it isn't, that the next one will be successful, and the one after that. That's what we need to be about. And I thank you for the opportunity, but I'm most excited to hear the pitches today and going beyond today. And again, I hope I'll hear from folks as to help me and others like me in the legislature do our jobs better for you. Thank you very much, Dean Elliott, for the opportunity.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Like you, I look forward to hearing the 5 finalists. And before I turn this back to Jen, I want to just acknowledge 2 other people. Michelle Cody has been involved with CCEI for many, many years, and she has also been a remarkable partner bringing UConn together with the city of Hartford as we've looked at a lot of the ways in which the city can work to forward entrepreneurship there. And I also want to acknowledge Tim Folta, who is the Wolff chaired professor in entrepreneurship. And it's a reminder that when we talk about the Wolff family and we talk about other philanthropists and donors and supporters of our efforts at the university, it comes in many flavors. The Wolff family endowed early this chair in entrepreneurship, and it was my pleasure to work with them to recruit Tim into the role. And he's been a significant partner on the particularly academic side of entrepreneurship here at the university and with the Center for Entrepreneurship and Integrity. So, and Entrepreneurship and Innovation, excuse me. And so with that, let me turn it back to you, Jen, to begin the event.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Dean Elliott and Senator Fanfara, for joining us tonight and all you have done to support entrepreneurship at UConn. I'd like to next introduce Dr. Rory McGloin, Professor of Communication and Communication Consultant, who will be our MC tonight. Rory has been an integral member of our CCEI Summer Fellowship teaching team and mentor of our startups over the last 6 months. Rory has coached our teams on delivering a compelling pitch, and most importantly in this virtual environment, how to communicate effectively when you're sitting in front of a camera instead of a room full of people. Rory, thank you for joining us tonight and for your willingness to serve as MC for us.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for that kind introduction. Brilliant words from Dean Elliott, Senator Fanfara. Pleasure to have you all here. Just want to take a moment to thank Jen and her team at CCEI. I would like to thank Dean Elliott, David Souter for having the vision to see the need to bring the value of communication to the forefront of this business development process. And I'm really hopeful and looking forward to developing this partnership for a long time to come. I've been studying communication now for the last 20 years or so, and it feels as if 2020 has pushed communication to the forefront of our minds, recognizing it as something that is tangible, that we need to invest in, that we now see as being the bedrock for our scientific innovation. We can have great ideas, but the ability to share them is what compels others to take action next. So for our entrepreneurs this evening, in so many ways, this represents another milestone on their journey. Tonight is a night where we bring an audience of esteemed experts, community partners, and inquisitive investors to come together to listen to these organizations tell the story of their business and in turn their vision for making our world a better place. And I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to have had the chance to work closely with each of these talented entrepreneurs. Their presentations have been honed to carefully tell you a compelling story, to move your emotions, influence your thoughts, and ultimately get you to take action. And while these presenters have been working diligently on these presentations for the past several months, I know they've been preparing for moments like this their whole lives. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you tonight for what is sure to be a wonderful culmination of talent. With that being said, however, this is a competition, and there are some details and logistics I would like to review before we get into the action. So if you're joining us this evening, what you will see is 5 startups who will have 8 minutes to make their pitch. Following those presentations, there will be a 7-minute Q&A period from our judging panel. But that's not all. If you're joining us as an attendee, we welcome you to take advantage of the technical affordances of Zoom, and that means participating with your questions, comments, and thoughts throughout the evening via the chat. And we have Charisse who will be there to interact and guide you along for any questions that you may have. All right, so we've got our panel of entrepreneurs. We have the layout for the event. We have been joined by esteemed guests. The only thing remaining, of course, is our judging panel. And I would like now to invite each of the judges to take a moment to briefly introduce themselves to the audience, beginning with Asim Zahir.
Thanks, Rory. First of all, I just want to congratulate all the participants for making it this far and for being finalists. And I want to congratulate you also for taking the initiative to start your own venture. There's nothing more that I would respect than that. And it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of initiative to venture out on your own. So congrats on that. And I also want to congratulate Professor McGloin on that fantastic head of hair. I'm extremely jealous. I'll keep it brief. For me, I've mostly served as a CMO in multiple companies throughout my career. I've done a series of startups. I'm involved in a startup now. I've also worked at very large global conglomerates. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've failed spectacularly, and I've had some really great successes too. And I'm just happy and honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentations. Thanks.
Thanks, Asim. Let me jump in. My name is Rich Vogel. Thank you so much for having me and for those wonderful remarks. Senator, your words ring true, ring very true. I am a 1987 alum of the UConn Business School, and I just want you to know there is no connection to the fact that today is Monday, October 19th. It was not such a great day in 1987, but I'm happy that we've finally gotten it right. I'm the founding partner at Loeb.nyc. We are early stage business builders and investors. We've got about 22 companies active in the portfolio today. And you can think of us as seed to Series A investors with great operational infrastructure and support for our portfolio companies. So congratulations on being here. I look forward to hearing your stories and getting to know you down the line.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claudia Reuter. I'm a GM with Techstars. I'm super excited to be here today and really eager to hear all of the presentations and congratulate everyone who's made it this far in the journey. I joined Techstars a few years ago as the managing director for the program that is run right in Hartford with Stanley Black & Decker, where we focus on finding 10 companies a year in which to invest. As an organization, we've invested in more than 2,000 companies with some pretty phenomenal success rates. And so I've got roots in Connecticut. I'm now the GM for the East Coast, but have a soft spot in my heart for this region as I not only grew up here, but also built a company here. And so really excited to be able to support entrepreneurs in this ecosystem.
And Kwase, you're up next.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can everybody hear me right now? Okay, great. The lights actually went out in my office because I had no motion in the last 20 minutes. So sorry about that. But hi, my name's Kwasi Kwe. I'm an investment professional at Fairview Capital Partners. We're a private equity and venture capital investment management firm where we invest in funds, but also early stage promising and growing companies. Actually, here in the state of Connecticut, we have a pool of capital where we're dedicated to finding companies that show a lot of promise. We primarily target Series A, Series B rounds. So just before that inflection of scale is really where our capital is put to work. We like to partner with, strong and promising management teams. I'm super fortunate to be in this position to be a judge. I love, hearing all the innovation happening within the state. As somebody that moved here from Chicago, it's a little surprising that there is this mood that there isn't much innovation or that there isn't a lot of companies staying in Connecticut, given all the education and talent here. And our capital is really designed to really fill that gap. What we observe in the venture capital space is there's actually a lot of startup activity at the early stage, the seed stage, Series A stage, but many that are growing actually leave to go to Boston, New York, and other areas. So our capital is really designed to be a mitigant for that. And so I look forward to hearing the presentations and, we'll certainly be tracking everything that we see here. Thank you.
Excellent. I guess I'll go next. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick O'Neill. Thank you very much for the invite, Jennifer, and we're looking forward to hearing from the companies. I am with Connecticut Innovations. For those who aren't familiar, we are the venture capital arm for the state of Connecticut. Think of us as the strategic investor, just like Intel Ventures, but our mission is to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem for Connecticut. We invest from the very earliest of stages, pre-seed of about $150,000 up to Series A, Series B expansion rounds. We do up to $1 million, $1.5 million in any given round. We have about 200 companies in our portfolio and about $250 million asset under management all told. We've been around for 30 years. I joined CI back in 2008 and started off low man on the totem pole, and now slightly less low on the totem pole, but have a great portfolio of really interesting companies, and hopefully we'll see the next one here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chet Manikantan. Well, so it's exciting to be here for a couple of reasons. I was just remembering back in India, where I'm originally from, when I first told the head of the department at the university that I want to be an entrepreneur. He's like, what do you mean head entrepreneur? We have campus job placements. To see the city, the state, and the university come together to support student entrepreneurs, it's pretty exciting, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm a repeat offender, to quote Dean Elliott. I'm a serial entrepreneur, started a few companies, spectacularly failed at a couple of them. I've had a few moderate successes. Currently, I'm straddling between two different funds as a venture partner of Companion in Boston and a de facto venture partners, which are combined about $15 million investing in seed, pre-seed, and up to Series A investments. And I'm really excited to listen to the wonderful 5 startups today.
Thank you, judges. As a reminder, we'll have approximately 7 minutes for questions following each of the presentations. I'll be doing my best to keep this session moderated and on time, and I'd invite you to just take into consideration your fellow judging peers when it comes to taking turns. All right, are we ready? We almost have 100 participants on the call. A big welcome to all of our attendees and guests that are in for a real treat this evening. Let's get this show started. So without further ado, our first presentation of the evening is from Veradermics. Here to introduce the Veradermics team is Dr. Jane Grant Kells. I see Jane is with us, Reed, and it looks like she is off mute.
Should I go ahead and share my screen, Rory?
That sounds good for now.
All right, all right.
Are you with us, Jane?
I think she's probably having technical difficulties, which is okay. I can introduce myself if that works.
Without further ado, we welcome Reed to present on behalf of the Veradermics. Reed, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Reed Waldman, and I'm really excited to tell you about how we at Veradermics are changing the way that childhood warts are treated. Now, warts are incredibly common. In fact, 20% of all children that are school-aged actually develop warts, and 2 million of these kids actually go to the doctor every year for treatment of their warts. And not only are they common, they're a huge problem. In fact, they cause a decrease in the quality of life of the kids who have them, on par with the decrease caused by hair loss. And despite being common and being problematic, the treatments that we have aren't kid-friendly because they're scary, painful, or they require daily applications for months. And resultantly, this scenario we're seeing on the right where a painful procedure is being performed on a kid who doesn't want it, while mom and a medical assistant are holding down that kid, is something that I see all too common in my clinic. And if you're a parent, you probably experience as well with your own kids. And despite these barbarous treatments, 50% of warts actually don't go away with current treatments. And that's why 2/3 of doctors who we surveyed told us that they want a better treatment option. The good news is that there is a better treatment option, which is injectable immunotherapy. And this is where you take a foreign protein and inject it into a wart to trigger a local immune response that causes the body's own immune system to recognize and fight off the wart virus. And across the board, it works better than our current standard of care, which is liquid nitrogen. But where I really want to focus your attention is to a multi-lesion effect. So when we inject this, it trains the immune system, as I said, to fight the wart virus. So the immune system not only fights the wart virus where you inject it, it actually looks elsewhere in your body and kills all of someone's warts. And in fact, it works so well in kids that 71% of kids who get an injection into one wart will actually have all of their warts go away, and close to 90% will have that wart you treat go away. The problem is that it's incredibly painful. And if you've ever had one of these injections, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so that's why our solution, Wart Patch, is to take this very effective therapy and put it into a patient-friendly delivery mechanism of a dissolvable microneedle patch. And so the way this works is that Wart Patch is put onto a wart like a Band-Aid in a process that's virtually painless. The needles, which are actually comprised of drug and actually deliver a known effective dose of an FDA-approved generic active ingredient, then dissolve into the skin within minutes, doing the same thing as an injection. And within only a couple of minutes, you can remove that adhesive bandage, throw it out, and you get the effective immune stimulation. And just like with an injection, you only have to apply this onto one wart to get treatment of all of your warts. And across the board, again, works better than all of our other available therapies because it has the efficacy of this intralesional immunotherapy. It has a patient-friendly, infrequent number of applications, and it's nearly painless. Now, Wart Patch will be an at-home prescription product, meaning patients will go to their doctor for treatment of their warts. They'll receive a prescription for Wart Patch that will be sent to their pharmacy, paid for by their insurance, and then applied at home by them or their parents. And this is really ideal for a post-COVID encounter where we're moving a lot of our appointments to telemedicine because unlike these procedural therapies, this is something that can be sent over the internet and can be done without someone ever having to leave their house. Now, the financial potential for Wart Patch is huge. We know that more than 20 million Americans have warts at any given time, 5 to 7 million of whom are actually going to the doctor for treatment of their warts every year. Now, 1.5 to 2 million of these those are kids. Our plan is to initially focus on this pediatric market because when I, as a dermatologist, think about why my colleagues would initially prescribe our product, it's to avoid that painful encounter that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. And this not only will be used for warts, there are multiple secondary markets. These include other viral skin infections like genital warts and molluscum, but also non-melanoma skin cancers that are currently being treated with immunotherapy. So where are we at in all of this? It may come as a surprise, but you actually can't take the off-the-shelf active ingredient and combine it with off-the-shelf microneedles. So our beginning development was really creating a formulation that would work with microneedles. We then actually completed the creation of a microneedle patch that has the strength of needles that we want, carries the dose that we want, and dissolves in the way we want. And those are our needles shown there in the scanning electron micrograph. At the end of this month, we'll have done a little more refinement of our formulation, and then we'll work towards a GMP compliant or ready for human use prototype by the end of next year. From an IP standpoint, we filed a provisional patent surrounding the general concept that we're actively working to convert with an experienced IP team, and all of this is assigned to the company. From a regulatory standpoint, Wart Patch is a drug-led combination product. If you're not familiar with that pathway, it looks nearly identical to the drug pathway, where you have to do an IND, then phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trials. And to help us with this, we're working with a very experienced derm-specific regulatory group who's done this many times. And where we're at right now is actually defining what all of our IND-enabling studies are going to be so that we can move into a pre-IND with the FDA. Who are we? Our CEO, Tim Durso, is a practicing dermatologist and captain of the Air Force. He is incredibly smart, has won multiple accolades within dermatology, and is a microneedle expert. I'm our COO. I work more on the regulatory side of things, having served as a sub-investigator and study coordinator for multiple FDA trials. I'm also very experienced in the research aspect of dermatology. And our CMO, Dr. Jane Grant-Kells, is internationally renowned within dermatology and is truly an institution within the field. Now, since our inception in September 2019, we've received substantial external validation, and this all started when we were named MIT's Hacking Dermatology Grand Prize winner. Now, since then, we've won a lot of other grants, including money from a FDA-backed pediatric device consortia. We've also advanced our concept through participation in accelerators and incubators, and these include, obviously, the Summer Fellowship, which was wonderful. Now, prior to our current fundraising, we had $210,000, predominantly came from grant funding. Some of it was our own money. And now we're moving towards these next steps in an attempt to raise $1.6 million additional dollars. And we've done a pretty good job at that. We're nearing our goal. We're still looking for a little bit more money as we go. And the reason that we're raising funds is to fund our milestones over the next 18 months. And that the real key inflection point for us is getting to a point where we have an IND, meaning that we can enter phase 1 trials, and we have a prototype that is suitable for phase 1 trials. So where are we headed with all this? Well, the next 18 months are pretty well defined. And from there, we actually enter the clinics and have a road to FDA approval from there. Now, this path to regulatory approval is fairly long. It's 6 years, and it'll cost us about $20 million. Now, importantly, we don't have to take this all the way to FDA approval for this to be, financially salient idea. In fact, pre-revenue exits during the development phase are really the norm for small dermatology-focused single-asset companies like ours, with several happening in recent years. And with the money from Wolff today, we'll not only get validation to help us attract these final investors in our round, but we'll be able to use this money to perform key toxicology studies that will demonstrate to the FDA that our product is safe for human testing. Thank you for your time today. Let's get Wart patch into clinical trials, and your help today is that first step.
Thanks very much, Reed. We will now turn it over to the judges for their comments, questions, or feedback.
Question here, if you don't mind. Thanks for that. One question I had was, you had some statistics there you were running through pretty quickly on relative success rate compared to other alternatives. So what kind of testing are you basing that on? I know you haven't gone into clinical trials yet per se. What kind of testing have you done? Where are you getting these numbers, et cetera? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so we can go back. So the active ingredient that we use, which is generic, is something that's been used in dermatology for a little more than 20 years. And it's from this data that we have, robust clinical trial data like shown here that demonstrates that when you inject a certain dose of this medication, that you get this level of response rate. We've been able to incorporate that same dose into a microneedle. So that's where we get the efficacy data regarding intralesional immunotherapy, the same route of administration, same amount of drug. As far as other things, standard of care for in-office treatments or people actually going to the doctor is liquid nitrogen. And obviously that's something that's been studied robustly, and that has a single lesion effect rate, meaning if you freeze one wart, of about 50%. The problem is obviously the average person has somewhere between 2 and 6 warts. So each time you freeze, there's independent probabilities, decreases the likelihood of success. And then finally is salicylic acid, which is the standard of care over-the-counter product. And if that is used perfectly, meaning if you apply that every day under a Band-Aid for 12 weeks, the success rates are 50, 60%, depending who you ask. The real world success rates from studies approach more like 15% because all of us live busy lives. Putting something on that stings every day for months at a time, obviously very difficult. So again, all from published peer-reviewed data.
Read this chat here. I have a question. Transcutaneous delivery has been around for a while. There are a number of different companies, including 3M being the biggest player in the space. So my question is around the defensibility of your intellectual property. What kind of IP have you filed? And also in terms of, do you need to get some sort of freedom to operate from some of these providers? Have you thought about those things? That'll be helpful.
Absolutely, great question. So I think first and most importantly, it's important to state that there are different types of microneedles. So what we're using is dissolving microneedles. So this is a combination of drug and polymer, whereas a lot of the things that are more manufactured like 3M are either coated microneedles where you spray drug onto stainless steel or something like that, or they're hollow microneedles where it's basically a tiny needle you inject through. Now, as far as the IP standpoint, there are really two components to that question. One is what is patentable about what we're doing, and the other, as you alluded to, is do we have freedom of operate to actually manufacture and sell this. As far as what is patentable, there are several things. First and foremost, no one has ever put this class of medication into a dissolving microneedle patch. The second is that, as I said, you can't just take off the shelf. So 3M, someone like that, couldn't just take the off the shelf active ingredient and put it into a microneedle. So there's a fair amount of processing that is unique to the entire class, actually, that we had to overcome and that involved innovation that allows that to happen. Then there are specific design elements to this type of microneedle that are unique to the treatment of warts, cutaneous viral infections that we had to create and that are unique to our mechanism of action that haven't been described. Now, question number two, though, is how do we know we have freedom to operate? And there are a couple points here. First and foremost, I think it's important to acknowledge we've never performed a freedom to operate search at the advice of our IP lawyers because it's simply too expensive for us now. Nonetheless, we've done a lot of work in this area. So dissolving microneedles, have been around since about the 90s. A lot of the pivotal initial IP surrounding, how do you manufacture a dissolving microneedle is either already off patent or is coming off patent. Nonetheless, we recognize that, intellectual property is the lifeblood of a life science company. So we are actively pursuing, or late stages of pursuing a deal with probably the leading manufacturer in the dissolving space, the only people who have ever actually put them into humans to continue our human development, which would give us access to a broad patent portfolio and I think mitigate a lot of those questions.
Thank you.
Hey, may I ask a question? So this is Patrick O'Neill from CI. It appears that both your two founders, you and your founder, have other full-time jobs. Who on your team is working full-time on is anyone on your team working full-time on this? And at what point will you be, and if not, what point will you be dedicating 100% of your time to the venture? And then, of course, you may have said it, but if you just sort of go into more detail about what this $20,000 would be able to do for your company specifically, given you have a lot of obviously a lot of money to raise here, and I just want to where this gets you to.
Absolutely. So in regards to question number one, right now, no one is full-time. However, I finished my residency at the end of this June, and the job that I am hammering out right now would be that I would see patients 2 days a week. So I'd have, 5 days a week to see patients. We do understand that, as we build as a team, as we take the next steps, we do need to build a larger team around us. And that's something that we're actively working to determine at what point are we going to bring what individual on. So that's kind of portion number one. As far as question number two, what are we going to do with this money? The thing that is most important to us at this point is getting an IND from the FDA, and where we want to put money is into toxicology studies, because while there is robust data showing that this is safe in humans and it's injectable formulation, the FDA obviously is going to require us to demonstrate that when you combine it with a polymer, even though this polymer is considered generally regarded as safe by the FDA, that it's still safe. So we would be dedicating this money to doing the pivotal toxicology studies that are integral to putting this into humans.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Hi, Reed. This is Claudia Reuter with Techstars. I'm sorry, Patrick, did you have a follow-up question to that?
No, this is Rory. Just want to let the judges know this will be our last question. So we have plenty of time for one more question.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing what you're working on. It's very exciting. Question for you related to the amount of funding you're raising and your runway, to follow on to the last question that you just heard. Can you share a little bit about how the funding that you raises ties to that August release date that you have, and what your plans look like if for some reason that funding is delayed?
So if I understand the question correctly, you're asking, where is this money going to go at what time? And then what will we do if we have delays as far as, when we hit that GMP compliant prototype? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, kind of a couple of buckets where the money goes. First and foremost is prototyping and preclinical development, and embedded in that are two separate things. The first is we have to create a GMP compliant prototype, meaning the FDA, it's compliant with all FDA documentation. And that involves, demonstrating that batch 1 and batch 1000 all are identical from that standpoint. So that's where some of the money goes. Second, from preclinical, is doing all of the IND enabling studies that demonstrate that this is safe to test in humans. And between those two, that's where, something like 2/3 of the money goes. Other areas where we dedicate money are to regulatory consulting, to intellectual property, and then just to general G&A. And as you suggested, there's always a chance to go over budget. So we have budgeted in a fair amount of redundancy to account for that. Now, as far as what will we do, if we're getting behind, even once we have a GMP compliant prototype, we still will need substantial more funding. This isn't marketable or sellable until it receives, FDA approval in probably late 2025, early 2026. So we'd be actively moving towards, raising a Series A round at that point.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Reed. Any follow-ups there, Claudia?
Not right now, no. Thank you.
Is there time for one more question?
That would put us at the end of our 7-minute mark, judges. And I apologize, Claudia, for the interruption. I wanted to give you the last minute warning. So well done, judges. And I encourage you again, just be mindful of our peers as we go around, and we'll make an effort to make this a collaborative turn-taking process. Reed, thank you for, as always, a great presentation here this evening. So our next team is SEDMed. So for our second presentation of the evening, here to introduce the team from SEDMed is Glenn Bayer.
Good evening. It's my greatest pleasure to introduce you to Jeremy, Bruno, and Tim Krupski. On behalf of SEDMed, Jeremy came to me as an intern at the height of the pandemic. And it's fair to say I've known Jeremy for at least 10 years. And he knows my background as a serial entrepreneur, which crosses over to many industries, and as a manufacturer of automated and highly technical products. When I agreed to take Jeremy on as an intern, my goal was to teach him the mechanics and strategies involved in business by integrating him into several business cases. He quickly introduced me to Tim and SedMed and asked that I might mentor both of them and steward them in developing a go-to-market strategy for SedMed. What has consistently struck me about Jeremy and Tim from the very first day was their ability to grasp complicated issues that younger business mentees don't usually grasp. I'm honored to introduce them today and wholeheartedly endorse SedMed and urge you to support these young entrepreneurs on their quest to help support an aging population with their innovative product. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Glenn. Share my screen here. So, hi, I'm Jeremy from SedMed, and we keep the elderly safe and independent. Before I tell you what we're doing, I would like to tell you why we're doing it. This is my co-founder, Tim, and his grandmother, Grace. Grace suffered from a stroke when Tim was in high school and became wheelchair bound. After my co-founder watched his beloved grandmother struggle and begin to lose her independence, he knew something needed to be done. And so SedMed was born. Tim and I are both co-founders, but we are also loving grandchildren. This company and this product I'm about to share with you were founded on the principle of caring for and helping the people we love, our families. But Tim and his family are not alone. Nursing homes in the US collectively report 2.5 million falls per year, and many of which occur during resident toilet use. In fact, people 85 and older suffer more than half of their injuries near the toilet, and caregivers get injured too often. With occupational injuries accounting for 2 million lost workdays per year and $13 billion in associated costs, it's clear that in addition to residents getting hurt, if not potentially dying, there is an immense financial cost to elder care facilities, largely rooted from toileting. Simply put, the elderly and disabled struggle getting on and off the toilet. Right now, caregivers and family members are physically lifting seniors on and off the toilet, which does not completely void the risk of falls and gives way to a lack of independence and privacy for these seniors who can be literally naked in the hands of complete strangers. Caregivers are also getting injured from lifting seniors. And with caregivers going in and out of rooms and homes, there's an unnecessary COVID-19 exposure risk to a very vulnerable elderly population. Additionally, resident rehabilitation, workers' comp claims, and lost workdays are all very costly to elder care facilities and hospitals, which are our primary customer segments. It's clear that something needs to be done. And our company has the answer by giving these people the SedMed Toilet Lift Assist, a self-propelled toilet seat lifter that easily mounts directly onto any toilet and provides up to 75% assistance in raising a user's weight both on and off. This product uses a gas spring and completely unique detachable ergonomic pull bars to propel users forward into safety and security. It's an effective solution that reduces the risk of falls, reduces worker injury rates, reduces COVID-19 exposure from caregivers, allows users to regain their independence, restore their privacy, and it's all done in a low profile and easily assembled product. But we are not just planning to release one product. We designed our company and our patent to be able to grow and capture multiple markets. Competition. Caregivers are our biggest competitor, yet they are also our biggest ally. After all, we are developing a product to prevent caregiver injuries and reduce unnecessary supervision. Also, caregivers are expensive and intrusive during the intimate process of toileting. Safety handles and toilet raisers are cheap but not effective and often require assistance from caregivers. On the other end of the spectrum, powered toilet raisers are extremely effective, yet extremely expensive and bulky. Lastly, commode lifts are reasonably priced, but are very bulky and not the most effective because they require a difficult upper body movement that still can call for the help of a caregiver. Our ergonomic design solves that problem. So as you can see, at a consumer price point of $350 per unit, we are currently unrivaled. Prior to our last competition, the Summer Fellowship, which took place only 2 months ago, we had won $19,000 in funding through 3 CCEI programs, conducted 70+ customer discovery interviews, executed our provisional patent, and built a first-gen prototype to test our proof of concept, which you can see here. In the short 2 months since this past August, we have accomplished a lot. We contracted a prototyping expert. We contracted an industrial designer to investigate the ergonomics, manufacturability, and ease of use of our product. And we began the production of our refined second-gen prototype. We also finished our comprehensive business plan, continued our customer discovery, consulted one of our mentors' manufacturing companies for production estimates and cost and strength optimizations, and gained 2 valuable mentors and an advisor. But most importantly, we met with Peter Seif, the CEO of Aethon Robotics, which manufactures autonomous tug robots for hospitals around the country. And we are currently being placed on Aethon's existing contract with the Veterans Affairs hospitals as a preferred vendor. This will completely streamline our ability to go to market. Looking ahead, we will be receiving our second-gen prototype, executing our non-provisional patent and other IP tasks. I will be coming on full-time, and by winning $20,000 today, we will be able to jumpstart our pilot program. Our pilot program will consist of us manufacturing and distributing 30 units of our product to elder care facilities, hospitals, and end users to collect valuable feedback and data. We will use this to refine our product development and use said traction to explode us into the next phase of our company. And by the way, through our affiliation with Aethon Robotics, we will be able to facilitate a trial run at a high-profile hospital. And that is in addition to an assisted living facility that already agreed to pilot with us. And there are many more emerging opportunities. And based on our consultations with the manufacturing team at American Holt and a packaging engineer, we can produce and distribute 30 units of our product for $20,000 in this pilot program. After our pilot program finishes, we will solidify our product development and will likely move forward to licensing negotiations. Yet, it's important to note that a successful pilot program could also allow us to achieve organic growth. The reason we chose licensing as our most probable go-to-market strategy is to get our product out there to the masses quickly and with limited liabilities. And we have the potential to help a lot of people, especially with the emerging elderly baby boomer population. Between our commercial and consumer markets, there are over 4 million Americans who need our product right now. And at consumer and commercial price points of $350 and $500 respectively, this accounts for a $1.5 billion market, with a target market of $39 million in the first 2 years. Economy of scale will allow us to achieve a $62 cost of goods sold per unit, which will let us maintain profitability from year 1. We assume the best path forward will be by initially licensing our commercial product largely through Aethon Robotics as a preferred vendor. And if we pursue licensing, we project a 7% royalty on the revenue of each product sold. Following this traction, we anticipate an easier organic entry into the consumer market. You all met my mentor and our advisor, Glenn, earlier, and we are lucky to have Peter Seif, the CEO of Aethon Robotics, join our advisory board as well. And joining our mentor team is Alan Mazurek, the past CEO of Vonage and a serial entrepreneur, Nimi Pasricha with 15 years experience in the luxury retirement industry, and John Levy, the CEO of American Holt. Their guidance and networking has immeasurably contributed to the success we've had and will continue to have. With this $20,000, we can jumpstart the success of our company so that we can increase the safety and independence of our growing elderly population. And we're ready, so let's do it. Thank you.
Jeremy, it's Rich Vogel. I'd like to ask you a question from the direct-to-consumer side in my head. Is there an opportunity here for insurance reimbursement or Medicare or Medicaid reimbursement? How do you see insurance and this product and the path to it?
Yeah, great question. So right now, we believe that there is no path for medical insurance reimbursement based on what our competitors on the market are like in terms of not being able to be reimbursed. However, we are somewhat of a novel product, so there might be a play, but right now, safe answer is that we are not.
Hey, Jeremy, this is Kwesi Kwe from Fairview Capital. Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to revisit the pricing. You know, in venture land, one of the things that we're always looking for is recurring revenue. And one thing that stood out was revenue is really predicated on unit sales. Have you thought about maybe pivoting to hardware as a service or something like that, where you could have recurring revenue rather than unit by unit revenue?
To be honest, I have not thought about that, but that's an interesting thing to explore.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Patrick O'Neill here for a question. You mentioned you're going to be able to put this into a hospital and a skilled nursing facility shortly. I'm curious, what is the approval process to get into? I mean, it's basically durable medical equipment, lack of a better word. Can you talk a little bit about the process to get that into the hospitals and how far you're down that road?
Yeah. So this meeting we had with Athon was actually very recent. It was last week, and it was a fantastic meeting. We got a lot out of it. And one of the things that he said is they sell to hospitals across the country. And this was only last week, but he said that he would definitely be able to recommend us to hospitals to basically allow us to get into them much easier. Having said that, our product is a Class 1 medical device. So that means that we actually have the lowest liability there is. So we need to pay about $5,500 for an FDA registration. And then it's a little bit of an easier process. We have not begun that process so much as we've begun generating leads and getting people to or getting organizations to agree to pilot with us. But the barrier to entry, we don't see as being very large.
Okay, so if we just a quick follow-up there, because you sort of hit on another topic when you said liability. Understood it's a Class 1 device, and as I would kind of suspect, but from an insurance point of view, this is a device that it's powered device, and if or spring loaded at the very least, so there's a potential for falls, or it's trying to prevent falls, but also could create falls by throwing a patient off. Have you looked at the insurance requirements that to sell this unit, sell or license it?
There were the insurance requirements to sell or license this. Well, I mean, I know we're not going to be covered, or at least we don't believe we'll be covered. But in terms of insurance, you mean our company insurance, or
product liability insurance?
Oh yeah, we have looked at that, and that's not a large cost for us. I believe for the pilot program alone, we could probably spend $2,000 to $3,000, and that would cover us.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Congrats on all the progress you've made with limited resources so far. Just a quick question on, it sounds like one of your strategies is a licensing strategy. Can you just dig in a little bit more to the amount of research you've done on other IP that might already be out there, and how similar or just like where your real distinction is to actually have value as you try to go that approach?
Yeah, so we did a preliminary patent search, and there's nothing like our product that's currently out there. We have a provisional patent, but there's still some other IP tasks we plan on embarking on, such as freedom to operate and patentability. But based on our search that we did in a company with a patent attorney, we don't foresee that as an issue at all. Did that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Quick question, Jeremy. Good to see you again, by the way. And I see you went down the licensing path, which I think is wise. Have you considered other markets? I don't know if, sorry if I missed it. You talked about obviously nursing homes, but have you thought about hospitals, post-operative scenarios and so forth? Is that something that you guys have considered, have researched? Is that a potential for you guys?
100%. Yes. So we, simply put, this product will benefit anybody that struggles to get on and off the toilet. You don't have to be elderly. You don't have to be weak. You can have different disablements. You can have temporary injuries. So hospitals are actually a primary customer segment, and will likely be one of the first people we'll pilot with if we're given this $20,000 today. So 100%, and other rehab clinics, physical therapy, it's all in our market.
Okay,
We've got time for one more question, judges. Sounds like you may have satisfied the judges, Jeremy.
I hope so. Well, thank you guys so much.
Very good. Well done, Jeremy. Appreciate the presentation. Great feedback and questions from our judges. All right, folks. We are now moving on to our third presentation of the evening, which will be from Pisces Atlantic. Here to introduce the team from Pisces Atlantic is David Bruno.
Hey, good evening, everyone. As some of you know, I just arrived in Connecticut a year ago, and one of the first young people that I met was Peter Goggins, who's presenting Pisces Atlantic. He's the founder. What inspired me is his belief in himself as a leader. He's taken on a big global problem that is just really, inspired coming from the state of Connecticut in aquaculture. It's clear that this young man is never going to leave Connecticut, that he really wants to stay here and build a global business from here. And he's competent beyond his years. So I watched him all of the last year, particularly this summer in the CCI program, instead of being on the beach with his friends and going out at night, developing fish in his dad's garage and then building up a prototype factory in East Hartford, renting out the location, importing machinery. I mean, this is a serious guy. So, I give him my vote of confidence, and I think Peter Goggins will basically never work for anyone else. This is his business.
Thank you, Dave. It's really great to hear that. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start with a little thought exercise. So everyone's heard the phrase that you are what you eat, right? Well, I think it stands to reason that if you are what you eat, then you're also what your food eats. Now, keeping that in mind, I want you to think back to the last time you had fished and really envision for me and think hard about that experience while I list off common ingredients in commercial fish feeds. In order of increasing grossness, here it is: cottonseed meal, wheat chaff, ground up feathers, crushed bone meal, rendering plant byproducts such as cow or pig livers, spleens, lungs, brains, and kidneys, spray dried blood meal, and literal chicken shit. Nasty. You ate that, kind of. And seeing as 43% of wild caught fish are no more wild than the goldfish doing laps in your living room, you may be questioning what food you've been providing to your family all these years and why this is the case. The answer has some nuance. Since the 1960s, seafood consumption has tripled, putting enormous pressure on commercial fisheries that have been fished far beyond a sustainable limit. And starting way back in the dark ages of the 1980s, it's become apparent that aquaculture, or the commercial farming of fish, is the only reasonable way to provide enough seafood to meet growing demand, especially in the face of severe overfishing. The blue area on the graph represents my total available market, the sum of all fish grown today, about 80 million tons annually. It's important to note that the red area, or wild-caught fish, has plateaued over the last 50 years, indicative of the fact that farming is the only way to adequately meet the increasing demand. But imagine 80 million tons of farm fish for me. What do you feed 80 million tons of fish from larvae up until slaughter? Well, most fish feeds are based on something called fish meal, a very specific term that describes ground up trash fish, such as anchovies or sardines. But fish meal, which is essentially just minced trash fish, has proven to be a dwindling resource. And as supplies have dried up, the price has increased a lot. It's more than doubled in the last 15 years. Now, to tie it back to the start, that's why all these cheap, disgusting fillers are used. They're used to cut fish meal so that manufacturers can save money on production and use less and less of their increasingly expensive main ingredient, the ground up trash fish. The rising price of fish food ingredients is not victimless, however. Of the hundreds of fish farmers that I've spoken to, almost everyone has told me that the rising price of fish food is crushing their margins and making it harder and harder for them to successfully and profitably farm fish. And as the consumer, you should care because fish meal is often contaminated with pollutants such as mercury and PCB plastics that get passed on to the end consumer, you. So we have a situation where more and more seafood is demanded every year, so more and more fish are farmed every year. But there's less and less of this finite resource that's the baseline for almost all commercial feeds today. So increasingly, feeds are filled with nasty fillers. Farmers are struggling to afford even these terrible feeds. And of course, on top of it all, Everything I just mentioned is saturated with mercury and plastic bits. Here's where I come in. My product is a commercial fish feed that's completely free of the increasingly expensive fish meal, the minced fish that I introduced in the last slide, meaning that there's no need for the nasty filler from the start used to cut out that pricey main ingredient. My formulation is instead made from vegetable and insect proteins that closely mimic the natural diet of many commercial species, and it's not subject to resource bottlenecks like current feeds. My customers, the farmers, will care because I developed a highly effective replacement for the current feeds that they're using that has a drastically lower cost of goods. That means that I can produce a feed at a lower cost and sell to them for less, bringing down their biggest expense and letting them do what they do best: grow fish, sell fish, and ultimately profit from fish. Importantly, this is classified as formulation, meaning that I qualify to be awarded a provisional patent, and I'm currently working on my final patent application for the formulation, as well as an accessory process patent. I'm passionate, almost obsessed about this business, and I've worked hard to make it a viable entity. Since summer fellowship in August, I put the finishing touches on my patent application. I've started my trademark application. I made a hire to work on branding, and together we built a brand package. I designed and ordered product packaging. I negotiated and arranged a supply chain source from China. And then when I realized that didn't make a whole lot of sense, I did it all over with domestic sources. Then crisscrossing the Northeast, picking up ingredients from agri-suppliers. Starting this fall, I took delivery of critical pieces of manufacturing equipment. I set up and modified these pieces of equipment and spent hundreds of hours learning how to use the tech and optimizing my manufacturing process. Then finally, I made a few more sales, including another delivery to my commercial account. And finally, in recent weeks, I've been working with one of my interns to create a sales plan to reach hobbyist customers over online sales platforms using digital marketing tools. If you're wondering when I sleep, I don't. It was thanks to the generosity of the university and CCI that I was able to receive this $15,000 grant from summer fellowship earlier this year. When they entrusted me with that enormous amount of money, I was able to put to good use and fund all of the traction I described in the last slide. Quantitatively, it allowed me to drop my cost of goods by a factor of 6. I was able to increase production 25 times, from about 8 pounds a day to several hundred. This grant made it possible for me to profitably produce and fulfill my orders, while also funding a number of accessory products such as branding, and giving me the time to focus on expanding the business and strategizing for the future. With the $20,000 from the Wolff Fund, I would be able to accelerate my company's growth and fully exploit the situation I described in the last slide. I'm at a point where I'm starting to see organic sales based solely on word of mouth. My biggest holdup right now is connecting with my customers, something that having cash on hand to be able to solve, as I've already developed a brand package and I've already hired interns specifically tasked with managing marketing and sales channels. The Wolff New Venture Prize would be the equivalent of strapping a rocket booster on my company's growth, propelling explosive expansion and a much increased volume of sales made. It cannot come at a more critical juncture. Every cent invested now is worth dollars down the line and can serve to promote the growth of this company and the core of a new Connecticut manufacturing ecosystem. And not only will this $20,000 help with continuing to increase my manufacturing efficiency, and not only will it let me reach massive numbers of new customers, but the symbiotic short-term effect of this, a greater volume of more profitable sales, will instigate a cascade effect where I can reinvest revenue into future growth, market capture, and product development. This will yield dividends in a short period of time. I could put this money to work tomorrow, capturing significant chunks of the fish food market. And as the overall fish food market is worth around $70 billion, growing 5 to 7% annually, pivoting to capture even 1/10 of 1%, 1 in every 1,000 sales of this extremely segmented and specialized market would yield annual recurring revenue of $70 million. That's from every 1/1000th of the market, something I believe this strategy can achieve within the time span of several years. Right now, I'm selling to small commercial and hobbyist farmers. These individuals and companies produce feed by the pound or tens of pounds at an inflated margin, allowing me to profitably sell at a scale that I can currently support. As the company grows along with my production capacity and my cost of goods drops, I'll begin moving into specialized niche markets of a moderate size, and then finally the most lucrative giant industrial farms. Like Amazon selling books or Tesla selling roadsters, I plan on first dominating small niche markets before taking advantage of scale to expand to larger mainstream markets where the majority of the 70 billion number I quoted in the last slide. In my biased opinion, I have the best product in the market by a long shot. But what makes me really confident that this will be a smashing success is the talents of my team. I've recruited them to complement my own weak spots and work with me to build the surest path to market possible. I'd like to thank you for listening. Thank you for coming tonight, and I would love to answer any questions you have.
Peter, this is Chet. Can you talk a little bit about the current procurement process of the fish food by farmers?
Yeah, so in the largest industrial farms, typically what we see is a situation where they order they have seasonal contracts. So typically they'll go to the, I'm most familiar with the catfish industry in the American Southeast. And every year they get a flyer in the mail starting around January, and it sees the offers from various companies. And those companies will follow up on them with that. And then they enter into a seasonal one contract. So every day, 4 to 5 tons of feed are delivered, and they pay the agreed upon amount. And that's pretty typical across the entire industry. As you get to the smaller hobbyist industries, you have to focus a little bit more on marketing, because it's less of a B2B sale where, you have a list of 700 customers. I know the name and number of most of the catfish farmers in the United States, but I don't know everybody who does it recreationally in Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? So that's where marketing comes into play.
Right. Are there middlemen in this space? Is it direct?
Yes. So I'm going to highlight my competition right now. And the sum of the market is made up by either large global corporations that have 5 to 7% of the overall market, or small regional co-ops. And the co-ops are often owned by farmers. So they're literally producing at cost for the farmers themselves. There's no middleman there. They own, they know the foreman, they own, 15% of it, and it's delivered straight to their farm every day. The global corporations, there is sometimes a middleman. It depends on where you are. Typically, yes, in the United States, not so much in, say, Europe or China.
Okay, so I have a last follow-up question. What is your strategy to overcome these challenges? Because these people have deep markets, established relationships, and a lot of money.
I'm glad you brought that up. So these companies, the market overall is extremely fragmented by geography and species type. So that's why none of them have more than 5 to 7%. And if you look at their margins, they make maximum 5 to 8% profit, and their margins are not much wider than that. They struggle to reach new customers and expand because they've doubled down on the existing fish meal-based technology. So they have very thin margins with which to invest into R&D to make better products or newer products that could, get them another leg up, and very little money to invest into, say, a new manufacturing facility in Mississippi if they're based in Norway. So my plan to counter that is to scale through the small and to the kind of hobbyist and moderately sized markets myself, and then enter into, in other agribusinesses, you see this model of licensing, where you license out the formulation to the existing, say, co-op mills, the existing infrastructure. So they pay you a royalty to use your formulation. That's the model I would like to apply here to see rapid growth 2 or 3 years down the line after I've established more traction.
Hi, Peter. This is Claudia Reuter with Techstars. Congrats on all you've accomplished so far. Question for you. This is a really interesting market opportunity that you're identifying. And, you mentioned earlier that you don't sleep. What motivates you? What is the main motivator that has contributed to your burning desire to keep this business moving?
I love it when people ask that. And it's because there's 2 things. I'm a passionate environmentalist. And right now, the current fish meal-based feeds that rely on trash fish, they tend to decimate ocean ecosystems. I don't like that. So my product can, by supplanting the fish meal-based feeds, and end that practice. Also, on the other hand, I'm a fan of sustainable growth, and I believe that every person should have access to clean, healthy food. Because feeds are so expensive now, a lot of places in Africa and the developing world cannot afford good feeds for their fish that are grown in local communities. If I bring the cost of feed down 20%, that leads to an exponential increase in the number of villages who can afford feed and can churn out not just high protein food for their children and the other people in there, but it's basically disposable income because they can grow more fish and sell it and then invest in their own infrastructure. Those 2 things get me out of bed in the morning. Again, thanks for asking that.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, Claudia. So Peter, question for you. I'm sorry, I think I just stepped on somebody there. Okay, I was under the impression when I first, when we were first presenting, that this would be a premium product, sort of in the organic side, but now you're talking about it being a lower cost product. So if that's the case, without seeing financials here, I'm wondering what kind of profit margins or at least cash flow that you would have to, there we have it, to maintain that R&D?
Yeah, so especially juxtaposed against those who currently dominate the industry with 5 to 8% profit. Right now, at the smallest scale that I really have, or that I'll ever see myself at, I have a 45% gross margin. Within a couple months, I could get that up into the 70s because my cost of goods is dirt cheap compared to what they're using. So even undercutting them, I'm making way more money per pound.
So these are pretty smart people. Why aren't they using the cheaper the cheaper feed products?
Well, that kind of goes back to the fact that the industry is very stagnant. From the research that I've done, they don't invest a whole lot of money into R&D. The same question could be posed to Exxon, and why aren't they funding electric batteries, whereas when they make oil? It's because they've invested in the infrastructure that allow them to get the natural resources that they use in their product. Abandoning that would be writing off billions of dollars for them. They put themselves into a corner where it's do or die to make this particular technology of fish meal-based feeds work.
So, Peter, by the way, I'm impressed with the vision that you have. But so if these large producers wanted to move in this direction, so they would have to change out or swap out their entire infrastructure in order to produce fish feed based on the materials that you're using?
I have friends, so most fish meal is taken from the Pacific coast. And I have friends in Chile who tell me that when it's the proper season to catch these fish, that's the only thing anyone does. And all these companies, they buy the boats, they pay the people. The entire economy there is run on that. And all the infrastructure, all the money that they have is tied up there. Additionally, I have some really promising intellectual property coming up that would possibly exclude them from ever using vegetable or insect proteins in feed.
So if somebody wanted to consume your product, you would have to produce it with your infrastructure and provide it to some of these large fish farmers, if you will. Would you be the source, or if you license it out to somebody else to build machinery to process your?
Yeah, the plan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The plan is to license it out eventually because the world is a big place. It's a massive market. We're talking about hundreds of millions of tons a year. So eventually, yes. The mills themselves that actually make the pellets, they can be retooled very easily. It's the entire logistical train that leads to them. That would be.
Got it. Okay, now I get it. Okay. So they can retool existing equipment. Yeah, okay, cool. Got it. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Thank you, judges. Great conversation and feedback. Peter, really enjoyed the presentation as always. Excited for that conversation to continue long after tonight has been finished. As we transition to our fourth presenter this evening, I'm very honored to have become a mentor for many of our teams, and I've built some great relationships over the past summer with each of these teams, none more so than that with those fellows from Junity. So I will provide their introduction this evening. We're all quite privileged to be here this evening amongst such an esteemed company, many of us boasting impressive titles and resumes full of awards and accolades. However, each of us who has achieved relative success and happiness in our lives is also quickly to recognize that those titles and awards don't tell the whole story. In fact, for those successful entrepreneurs among us, we often recognize that it is the path we took to uncover what truly drives us. It is the resources that we sought out along the way that steered our ships during many a stormy night. Having access to resources, mentors, and a community of support is likely what gave us the support that we needed to get where we are today. However, there are gaps in our system. As a professor and a mentor of our current students, I see the gaps on a daily basis that exist in our classrooms in regards to the diversity and the integration of students from underrepresented communities. As a business owner and communication consultant here in our great state of Connecticut, I see the gaps that exist in our workforce development and our ability to attract and retain younger generations into new positions, particularly in relation to our state's backbone industry of manufacturing. We have resources right here in our backyards. We have the programs, we have the funding streams to support our future generations, and yet we're still struggling to connect those in need with the resources. This past year has brought many challenges. In particular, the events surrounding racial and civil inequality have loudly signaled once again that we are in dramatic need for solutions that bring us together instead of keeping us and our resources divided. Despite our nation undergoing some of the deepest and most thoughtful moments of reflection we've seen in recent time, we know that the most important work still lies ahead of us. It is our responsibility to ensure that future generations are able to connect with the resources that we've all worked hard to create so that they can seek their own pursuit of happiness. Junity has the solution to make this all possible. In this process, identifying resources is just the beginning. But being able to speak the language for whom the resources are designed is where Junity stands out. Therefore, it is my profound pleasure to introduce you this evening to the Junity team and their presenter, Mr. Janoy Williams.
Thank you, Rory. On behalf of Junity, I would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Before I tell you about the story of Junity and the lives of our platform is going to change, I would like to begin by asking you to think about your story. In particular, the person or resource that changed your life. Everyone here tonight at some point has been afforded an opportunity which has led to this moment, allowing you this evening to spend the next 8 minutes of your time listening to what I'm about to say. I want you to recognize that we would not all be in this place tonight if it weren't for the opportunity presented to us by a guidance counselor, a coach, a friend, an internship, a church, or some person or some system that believed in your ability to be exactly who you are. As we begin, I would like to recognize that your story is our story. And this is Junity. My name is Janoy Williams, and I want to begin by telling my story. As an immigrant from Jamaica, I grew up in a single-parent household and had a first-hand experience with poverty. I grew up in an urban neighborhood and always had a passion for learning. So to avoid going to the infamous F school down the street from my house, I applied to a magnet school. Took a bus to high school 20 miles away from my neighborhood with all of my friends back at this F school, stuck with a less than ideal education, lack of awareness of opportunities, and no guidance to a plan after graduation. At that point, I realized that society kind of gave up on my friends. Going to college was equally challenging for me. I remember teaching myself how to fill out a FAFSA form and finding out that my mom supported 3 kids on $23,000 the last year. I struggled to find a tuition assistance and scholarships and ultimately decided to join Army ROTC to fund my experience at Penn State. And then not experienced with resume, interviewing, and career planning skills, it took me hundreds of interviews and rejections before I secured my first internship at Pratt, my current employer today. Through community engagement at Pratt, I've been introduced to some amazing organizations that are ready and able to help any kid in need. So why are there still youth that still continue to struggle the way that I did? I'm not the only one who has a story like this. Millions of students can identify with this reality, and we're here to change that perception. The fallacy today is that college is the only way to have a decent life and contribute to society. Most of us can name a few universities and scholarship repositories that we've been constantly exposed to. Unfortunately, the reality is that most youth are not in the position to give back to their community because they haven't engaged their calling, because they're unaware. The truth is, we have so many other options. In our model of success, we want to pair students up for a career of a lifetime, which they're engaging what they want to do. Not only will they be able to find success and be able to take pride in what they do, but likely when they get back to their community, they're doing so in a way where they're doing exactly what they want. The local coffee shop, a mechanic, landscaping, enjoying the journey while contributing to their community in the best way. What life can look like when you make your own choices about things you're actually interested in. Junity puts the power of the choice of each student for how they see themselves. Through Junity, students, guidance counselors, and resource directors will be able to address the many issues they individually face. Students like Kemba, who don't know what they want to do, doesn't have the grades or the money to go to college, but he's very hands-on and loves working on cars, and he doesn't quite know how to translate that into a meaningful career, can be connected to resources like the Connecticut Center for Manufacturing, Advanced Manufacturing, or programs that fit his interests and available for high school students, and apprenticeships that can introduce him to the different types of manufacturing jobs and lead him to a meaningful career through our mobile application. Guidance counselors like Mrs. Walker that struggle to stay in touch with students like Kemba because she has thousands of students to connect with, while having the opportunity to effectively learn what students are interested in early in their high school career and optimally connect them to the resource they're interested in by using our web and mobile-based dashboard. And then for resource directors like Monica, who are typically underpaid and overworked, and runs the STEM outreach program sponsored by corporations and volunteers ready to give back, will have one less thing to worry about by getting students to participate in the programs they spend a ton of time soliciting funds for by posting those opportunities to our web application and connecting the students and schools that need it, especially those in underserved communities, leading to more utilization of that resource. To be clear, Junie is a mobile application and web dashboard that incentivizes the local community ecosystem by recognizing youth for taking control of their own path, all while allowing the ecosystem members to actively engage with them by providing resources and opportunities at their fingertips. Our core pillars are focused on resources that provide education, employment, and mentorship opportunities. This can range anywhere from an SAT prep class hosted by Kaplan to a corporate executive sponsorship by an executive at a Fortune 50 company. Let's take a look at the prototype we built to explore our value propositions. For one, our platform is location driven. We believe that there's power in proximity, and we believe that will drive higher engagement, and our research shows that. Students have the ability to onboard and choose their interests so that we can formulate a tailored journey so they're now choosing exactly what they want to do. And students we recognize for these engagements by earning points actively. Both students and resources will have the opportunity to rate their experiences, like Uber, to hold the ecosystem accountable. We want to showcase the most effective resources and connect them to the students that are the best fit. We also recognize that though our core pillars make up the initial content of our app, we don't want to forget the other areas of life that youth in America struggle with every single day. Therefore, we plan to incorporate resources like Level International that focuses on food, housing, and healthcare security when launching the second generation of Junity to provide a holistic approach to the youth's journey. We also understand that our problem is huge and there are a ton of organizations and people invested in solving this issue. We want to join arms with them by providing a platform that solves their needs through the next generation through our innovative solutions and technology. So how are we funding all of this as a nonprofit? Well, at Junity, we want to provide a frictionless environment that allows everyone to participate without financial hesitation. We know this will further incentivize the ecosystem. I mean, who can say no to a free service? Our business model is to form relationships and sponsorships with corporations that operate in the very community we aim to serve. There are a lot of corporations throughout the country with the goal of giving back to the community that they operate in. And as an employee of a corporate company, I know firsthand the type of investment they are willing to make to build a diverse and inclusive pipeline and brand equity. Our business model will solely depend on corporate sponsors providing us the funds to operate in each state. We will start in Connecticut by securing a founding corporate sponsor to assist us in developing our application and support our operations team. The operations team will be the boots on the ground, ensuring that every guidance counselor and community resource are onboarded on the app and ready to engage students like Kemba. Our model is simple and allows us to scale easily. This is the long nights and weekends crew. Even though we are all full-time working jobs, and this is our our passion is deep, and we're dedicated to fulfilling Junity's core mission. We have gained a tremendous amount of support along our journey, and we've been fortunate enough to participate in a few accelerators, which has ultimately given us a vote of confidence in what we're actually pursuing. All in all, I hope this presentation has made you more aware about the systemic issues our youth face in this country today. More importantly, I hope you're inspired by what Junity is seeking to accomplish. Today, we have a proof of concept that we want to validate by curating customer segment journeys. And I'm proud to announce that we've recently secured $100,000 in funding to assist in hiring an illustrator project manager to help us design these journeys. But as much as I want to pat ourselves on the back, we recognize that there is a ton more work to do. We understand that there's a market for this platform. There's also a very legitimate set of funding streams amongst corporate sponsors to continue to support this application. As of today, we are in a position to complete our very first launch and overall proof of concept so that we can introduce Junity to a cohort of students, guidance counselors, and resources as we begin functionality testing. $20,000 helps us code Junity and bring this concept to life, to the hands of the community ecosystem. $20,000 doesn't just change the story of Junity, but it changes the lives of those who are involved in the community ecosystem. The return on this investment is exponentially infinite. We already solidified that you are part of Junity's story. Are you willing to be a part of Junity's legacy? And I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who says, we may have all come on different boats where we're in the same boat now. Thank you.
Janoy, amazing job. It's Rich Vogel. Thank you for the presentation. Just want to ask you to illustrate one thing, if you could. You had mentioned something very interesting, which is the gamification of this concept, and I think you were driving toward points in exchange for something. And if you could build that out a little bit with an example, that'd be terrific.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, I'll be totally honest in answering this. Our research has showed that students want to be recognized for taking control of their path. And we built a model where the more they engage with their app, with our app, with the ability to take control of their path, the more points they get. Those points can then be turned into experiences, such as coffee with the mayor, an opportunity to sit with a mentor, a free SAT prep Kaplan class, or it can be a minor gift, like a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. Whatever motivates that student, they'll be able to use those points in turn for actually being recognizing for what they care about.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Kwesi Kwe here again from Fairview Capital. Thank you for that presentation. My question is, have you thought about maybe partnering with other non-for-profits almost as a means of integrating within their services and their platforms to get some kind of a network effect? Because one of the things that stood out was, you're relying on corporate sponsors, but what if you just partnered with, I don't know, Twigo or SEO or a lot of these other non-for-profit organizations that are focused on specific verticals, and you open your platform to them? That way, you would get a network effect of really just promoting, your brand, you're developing unique partnerships, and then you could really take off with scale. Something to consider, just as came to mind as you were speaking.
Yeah, Kwesi, thank you for the recommendation. And actually, to your point, we've had conversations with nonprofits. Financially, I think we want to remain close to our value of creating a frictionless environment. We don't want to compete for grant money. We don't want to compete for donors. We want to utilize our model so that we can enjoy a frictionless society. And we've definitely engaged some of those nonprofits in this local area. We're starting off in Hartford and New Haven. And we've formed some pretty formidable partnerships and relationships with them so that they can be onboarded on the app and they'll be on the application for free.
Great presentation. I love the name. How do you come up with it?
So Junity, if you think about it, there's a lot of things you can spin it into. The number one thing is we want to provide an inclusive space. Our culture is being inclusive, and we want to provide unity among all ecosystem members. And our focus is the youth, and the youth is a junior or a juvenile, whatever you want to call it. So Junity makes sense.
Congrats on everything you've accomplished so far. Question for you, going back to an earlier question on how you're thinking about the overall ecosystem that this is a part of. Can you share a little bit about how this plays with some of the other technologies that are out there designed to help students navigate, the college application process, like Naviance, and basically platforms in which schools have already invested? Like, how are you thinking about interoperability and where your solution plugs in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We understand there are a ton of platforms and resources out there to help students today. We also understand that those resources may be for profit, so there may be some financial gain they have. We're a nonprofit and we want to provide a frictionless environment. And we want those to participate without any financial hesitation. So our goal is not to compete against them. We want to join arms with them. We want to make people aware of those resources that they actually provide. And through our research, we realize there are a ton of organizations and there's a lot of redundancy. There's a couple organizations that provide the same services. And ultimately, if we are allowing them to all be on our platform, one, it makes them aware of what everybody else is doing. And two, it allows them to pivot exactly to the youth's needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A really great idea. I like it a lot. When would one enter your Junity ecosystem? Like, what's the target demographic? What age does one engage with this, and how how long do you stay within the Junity ecosystem to leverage these resources?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our target audience is anywhere between ages 13 and 18, those just leaving middle school into high school. However, we understand that there are so many other markets where people are trying to figure out their path, and our application will be open for that, right? A couple of examples I can name, those people who are trying to re-enter the workforce, those people who are coming home from jail or prison, those people who feel like society kind of gave up on them, they would also have the opportunity to utilize the platform. So we'll market to students, but ultimately this is a platform just like LinkedIn where anybody can basically be connected to a resource.
All right, judges, time for one more question.
What is the, if you could have only one main customer appear in the next month, who would it be and why?
When you say customer, are you referring to a buyer or a user?
Buyer.
Okay, so I'll be open and honest with you. I love the employer that I work for. I work for Pratt & Whitney, which is under Raytheon Technologies Corporation. There's a clear alignment between our brand strategies and our core values. And, because we're starting off in STEM fields, I think it would make a lot of sense. And that would be one employer or buyer that I would be ecstatic to work with.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Great questions, judges. Way to finish up there. Thank you, Janoy. As always, enjoyed the presentation. We have one presentation remaining. And here to introduce the presenter for One With is Mary Kay Delacamera.
Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to participate in tonight's event. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Kay Delacamera. I am a business advisor with the Connecticut Small Business Development Center. Haley and I have been working together for just shy of a year. She came to SBDC with both a mission and a dream, combined with unmatched determination and persistence. She envisioned a solution to a problem in women's fashion that the larger industry players have yet to solve. With her passion for fashion and comfort, she and her product are the best solution to female confidence in swimwear. Haley plans to take what is viewed as a luxury, stylish swimwear and make it a necessity enjoyed by everyone. She is both a leader and a strong communicator who displays the charisma needed to engage her audience. She is what I describe as a quadruple threat: a skilled entrepreneur with a great product, a massive audience, and the ability to manage a viral social campaign or social media campaign from day one. See for yourself. Let her show you.
My name is Haley Seeger, and I am the founder of One With. Tonight, I'm going to show you how we are going to revolutionize the way that women feel in swimwear. But before we dive into the details of how we're going to revolutionize swimwear, it's important that we start with the why. And the story of that why begins on my living room floor in April of 2019. Like most women preparing for a vacation, I tried on a ton of swimsuits to see what looked best on me. I was feeling frustrated, almost near tears, over the way that swimsuits looked on my body. It was after a dozen swimsuits that I realized I wasn't going to find the fit that I was looking for, because in that moment, it hit me. All swimsuits are made the exact same way, even the so-called figure-flattering ones. They're made with compressing elastic that's intended to keep the swimsuit secure on the body, but can end up creating bulges and indents that wouldn't be on a woman's body otherwise. And with tight seams that are not only physically uncomfortable to look at, but are physically uncomfortable for the wearer as well. And unflattering cuts that don't seem to be designed with the intention of a woman looking and feeling her best. None of these features are conducive to what we want. What we want is to feel accommodated. In fact, women are now Googling the term plus size swimwear more than they're Googling the term bikini body. This is indicative of the fact that we want a swimwear that accommodates us, not the other way around. Which is why we've created a swimsuit that's one with a woman's body. Here we have two photos. They're both the same wearer. On the left-hand side, we have a standard bikini bottom. It creates bulges that create an overall unflattering look. And on the right-hand side, we have a one-width bottom. This gives a smoothing, second skin appearance that is truly one with the wearer. And here, again, we have the same wearer. These photos are taken minutes apart, this time in a one-width swim top. As I mentioned previously, we do have competitors that are current key players in the figure flattering swim space. Though they claim they deliver a figure flattering swim fit, there's truly nothing that's different that's engineered about the way, there's truly nothing different about the way that they engineer their swim and the way that they bring it to the market. So how do we engineer our swim differently? First off, we use bonding instead of compressing elastic. Bonding is a 2-ply fabric that's fused together. This not only gives a smoothing second skin appearance, but also relieves the need for that compressing elastic. We also use raw cut edges. This gives an overall stretchier appearance, second skin fit, relieves the need for those tight seams, and where extra security is needed, we add a secondary silicone strip. We also just design using smart silhouettes instead of those unflattering cuts. And we design using smart features like a curvature at the hip and a leg opening at a lengthening point for maximum figure flattery. So who's shopping one with? The one with customer could best be described as a woman who wears a bikini, but has never felt 100% comfortable in one. Our total addressable market is 39 million women in the United States. This is 65% of the millennial female population who say they struggle to find a flattering swimsuit. Our target market are the one with early adopters who we plan on targeting first. This is the suburban millennial woman in the United States who makes $50K or more a year, likes clothes and fashion, and is eco-conscious. One with does feature a sustainability angle. We'll feature a minimal plastic consumer experience and feature all recycled fabrics in our designs. As you can imagine, one of the most rewarding parts of this venture is hearing what women in our test groups have to say about the swimsuits once they put them on their body. A sentiment that has been echoed over and over again is shock over the affordability of the prices of our suits. This one woman had our $98 one piece on and thought she was wearing a $300 swimsuit. Everybody else has echoed the sentiment that this is the best swimsuit they've ever put on their body. With this, I'm confident that we are revolutionizing an entire category of apparel. Much in the way that Sarah Blakely did with her invention of Spanx. She gave women the confidence to wear things they might have never worn before, and with that has a business that garners $250 million in net revenue annually. With that, let's talk numbers. So here's a walkthrough of our one-piece pricing. Our average cost of good, fully burdened, is $29. We then sell that swimsuit for $98, giving us an average gross margin of 70.4%. Our first year in business is geared at launching and building awareness around our brand, leaving us with a net profit of $135,000 at the end of 2021. Years 2 and 3, our goal is to increase our gross margins through scaling our business, leaving us with a over $1 million profit at the end of the third year in business. To scale one with, we're looking at partnering with key retail partners and also developing IP around our brand to solve garment-related issues for women. In doing all of this, it's very important to the ethos of our brand and to me personally to keep One With headquartered right here in Connecticut. So how will we market One With? One With has a 3-tier marketing strategy. This encompasses digital ads, celebrity content that's gifted, and marketing on my own platforms. What are my own platforms, you ask? Well, I am a social media influencer. I started my YouTube channel at the age of 12. I'm currently self-employed as a content creator. And with that, I'm part of an invite-only Amazon influencer beta program. I'm fortunate enough to have a 92% female demographic and a collective audience of over 100,000 people. On the left-hand side, you can see some press I've received over the years. And on the right-hand side, we have some collaborators I've been fortunate enough to work with. In addition to being a social media influencer, I also worked in the bridal industry for over 7 years. This gave me the experience of working intimately with women. I'm also a UConn alum, but to help me execute the One With look and feel, I hired our designer, Kristen Anderson. She's a former lead designer for industry heavyweights like Adore Me and Kona Soul, which is a Target swim brand. So as you can see, our designs are in good hands. Together, we're incredibly close to getting to market. Next month, I plan on announcing to my social media audience that I am the founder of One With. In December of 2020, I plan on placing our inventory order with our manufacturer, then launching our social ad campaign in January of 2021, which would garner buzz for our pre-order in February of 2021, and then garner more social media posts in anticipation of our hard launch in April of 2021, which is when we would ship product. Our cost for production is fully funded. And inventory, of course, for our business is vital, but so is the way in which we would use the Wolff Prize. So here's how that $20,000 would be put to use. In order to make a splash in direct-to-consumer swimwear, we need to get our site and our suits in front of our consumer, which is why digital advertising is key. Digital ads are the difference between launching an e-com product and selling an e-com product. The average ROI for online advertising is about 118% according to Nielsen. And in analyzing our competitors, we realized that each of our competitors on average had 43 individual content ads running on Facebook and Instagram to target the consumer that was looking for a better option in swimwear. And if we're looking to break into the space, we need to do the same. It's imperative that we partner with an experienced ad agency that can not only help us target our target demographic, but also target the people who are currently shopping our competitors. That Wolff Prize would fully fund our 2021 ad campaign and would afford us the opportunity to start working with an ad agency this week to reach our customers in time for our launch. Reaching our customers would help us reach our ultimate goal of One With, which is to increase the confidence of and empower women by changing the way that they view themselves in swimwear. For more information about our brand, you can visit onewithswim.com. And at this point, I'd like to thank you so much for your time and open up the floor to any questions. Thank you.
Hi, this is awesome. I think it's a great idea and something that I'm sure a lot of people would also want. In terms of your 2 questions for you, in your go-to-market strategy, you mentioned the importance of digital ads. One, could you also touch on community and how you plan to leverage online community since you have, your own following already, and how that all ties together? And then 2, on the IP related to the swimsuit that you've developed, could you help me understand a little bit more of how you are able to differentiate from, say, Spanx, who could, theoretically go after this market as well, or what sorts of protections do you have for them going after the particular approach that you've taken?
Okay. 2 big, really, really good questions. So in terms of community, I'm so excited to be able to announce the existence of this brand to my audience. In doing that, in turn, I hope to start building this amazing community around the One With brand, which is something that to me is integral in building a brand, and especially building a brand that has such a message around body positivity and female empowerment. Again, that's something that will come literally next month that I'm so excited to start building. Probably the most excited I've been for any part of this venture is to just be able to bring this out into the public and start curating that community. And then in terms of IP, around, protecting our brand. So one thing about the fashion industry, and, this is very notorious in the fashion industry, is it's not a very IP centric industry. It's not an industry where people actively seek IP. For example, Spanx. They did patent their original invention in 1998, I believe. Clearly, Skims, Yummy Tummy, Commando, all of the competitors that have come after, it's never prevented them from going after the actual advent and invention of what they've done. What Spanx has done, and has done correctly, and has done, so successfully and in a way that I admire, is build a community around their product and around their brand. So, with their patent, it's never actually prevented anybody from going after what they've done. But what they've done is create a brand and loyalty around their business that keeps people coming back, keeps people looking forward to their product lines. And that's what I intend to do with One With, considering the fact that fashion and IP don't always go hand in hand, but creating a brand and fashion definitely do. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Haley, so I'm, this is totally outside of my space, but I'm trying to get an idea on the typical gross margins that you would see in apparel. And do you have any background there that you can share with us? Because it feels like the margins might be kind of thin, especially you mentioned going right now it's direct to consumer, but you mentioned some retail partners there, and obviously you wouldn't be selling to them at list price. So I'm just wondering how if you know what those numbers would be.
Yeah, so of course, so we would look to increase our gross margins. I think I featured that as part of our goals for year 2 and year 3. In doing that, with fashion, again, and manufacturing fashion, increasing your production quantities, allows you to inherently increase your gross margin. So basically with every run and with every successful run, we'd be able to increase that margin. That would just be starting off right out the gate. And I'm very, very confident that by the second collection or capsule collection or whatever we put out, that margin would exponentially increase.
So do you have a feel for what kind of, call it a transfer price that you would, assuming $100 price point, how much you would have to sell to a Nordstrom's, et cetera?
In terms of what their typical order would garner?
If they're going to sell it for 100, what are they going to be willing to pay? $100 per unit. What will they be willing to pay for you to buy it from you? Is it $90? Is it $10? I have no clue, so I'm trying to.
No, and I'm more than happy to help. So it'd be typically about a 3-time markup. So obviously that's where we'd want to get our margins in check before we began the retail expansion, which I
thank you.
Think very feasible. Yeah, of course.
I thought that was a great presentation.
Thank you very
Kwesi from Fairview Capital.
Thank you very much.
You're focused on swim apparel, obviously, but what other product extensions or other avenues of growth do you see outside of swimsuits? Is that something that you're starting to bake in to your models?
I'm so happy you asked. Yes. So we would love to break into athleisure eventually. We really, really, really want to nail athleisure, being leggings, athletic tank tops and things like that. We really want to nail and master this women's swimwear, brand and avenue. It's important to us ethos-wise, but we absolutely see potential for so much expansion. I always say One With is a fit, it's a feel, it's a brand. It can be taken so many directions, and I'm so excited to see the way in which we branch out to that. We definitely already have things in the works in terms of, the ways that we can branch out. But yeah, we definitely have other avenues for which we can take the brand.
Thank you.
Really, this is Chet. You mentioned digital ads. Certain words tend to have a lot of, pay-per-click is going to be expensive on Google or Facebook. So have you budgeted that in your customer acquisition strategy? And of course, you're doing your own following, but if you're looking at outside of your network,
Understood. Totally. So that $20,000 would be allocated specifically to the budget of our ad spend, which, you know, can definitely go a long way depending which way you choose to direct it, right? So, you know, right now we're looking specifically at Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as the way that we're going to target those PPC ads. But yeah, I absolutely understand that the first real few months are going to be, you know, so focused on actually understanding our customer acquisition cost. And, you know, I look forward to, though, partnering with an agency that can help us kind of expedite that process, an agency that's worked with similar brands that understand the type of customer we're going after to expedite that process, and overall just have us come out, you know, more successful in the long run.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got time for maybe one more quick question before we wrap things up.
Haley, I've got one for you. It's Rich Vogel. Great job. Great idea. Just wondering how far along you are on your own site. When we think of product and we think of your site, do you have Shopify plugged in? Are you end-to-end all set? Or do you need some time to get that in place? We haven't had a chance to look at your site. At least I haven't. So
yeah,
curious.
No worries. So right now, if you were to go to onewithswim.com, you will be directed to our landing page, which is a place you can find more about our brand, see that campaign video I ran at the beginning a little bit more, and also sign up for our newsletter. But also we are working on the back end on our Shopify site that is almost done. We just need the product here to be able to do our photo shoot and plug all that content in, but it's ready. And as soon as we are ready to launch for our pre-order in February, that will be locked and loaded, ready to go. So right now, like I said, onewithswim.com is our landing page. But other than that, Shopify is ready to go.
Looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Well done, judges. Awesome job, Haley. Enjoyed the presentation. Great to see it all come together. So that was our 5th presentation of the evening. I'm sure on behalf of the presenters, they would just like to thank all of our attendees, our judges, for the great feedback and commentary. I know on behalf of the CCEI team, we just want to congratulate the presenters on doing an amazing job. And I'm personally so proud of their ability to get up and deliver such incredible presentations in this format. With that being said, it's now time for us to take a break. We're going to send our judges to the judging deliberation room with a very tough decision awaiting them. For us, we invite you to go grab a snack, but make sure that you come on back at 7:05, where we will be announcing our winner and the recipient of the $20,000 grand prize. So we will see you back here in just under 10 minutes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. My name is Michelle Cody, and I am lead instructor of the CCEI Summer Fellowship Program. So tonight is my favorite event of the entire year at UConn, and it's for two reasons. One is because we get to celebrate the incredible accomplishments of our 5 finalists. It's been tremendous to watch each and every one of you grow and progress over the last several months together. It seems crazy that we first met many of you in March of this past year, and probably one of the last in-person events at the university. And we found a way to come together over the course of the summer from wherever we were and work really, really hard together to get you to the point where you are now. And congratulations, we couldn't be more proud of you at this point. But it's also my favorite event of the year because it gives us an opportunity to reconnect with former summer fellowship participants and former Wolff competition winners. And so I'm about to introduce Nick Myers, who's along with Mike Martin, were the 2019 Wolff Prize winners. But before I hand the mic over to them to give us an update on what they've been doing since this time last year, I wanted to just highlight a couple of accomplishments that I thought were particularly noteworthy and perhaps easier for me to brag about than it might be for them to do so. With that, just wanted to congratulate them on a couple of things. One, they have been absolutely phenomenal in translating the skills and opportunities that they learned at inside of UConn to programs outside of UConn, the university, the state of Connecticut, and on a national level. So participating in Accelerate UConn, which is a National Science Foundation I-Corps site, led them to apply to and be accepted to the National Science Foundation National I-Corps program that they successfully completed. CCI Summer Fellowship led them to be accepted to the Techstars Accelerator program in 2020, where they were offered an opportunity to learn from some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. Also, together with those two accomplishments, and as a result of them, they have won a National Science Foundation SBIR Round 1 award, and together with a little bit of other funding sources, have cobbled together $2 million in funding to be able to support the growth of their venture. They've also been really successful in the market. So Nick is going to tell you all about their company, but it has to do with repurposing mining waste. So a core customer segment of theirs are actually mines all over the world. They've actually been successful in securing a deal with a platinum mine in South Africa, and we'll begin running a pilot program with them later this year. So incredible, incredible work. And then last but not least, we know that PR is often something that trails accomplishment. It's not indicative of accomplishment, but it's certainly something nice to have. And when you are mentioned by TechCrunch as a company to watch for 2020, I think that means that you're on the right track. So Nick, welcome to the 2020 Wolff New Venture Competition. Please tell us what else has been going on for you and how winning this award and this amount of funding last year helped catapult you to where you are now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction there, Michelle. It's a little bit of a throwback, and I can't believe it was only a year ago that we were here. It's literally nuts to see looking back. The program itself was so helpful for us. I think when we started AU, I was still working full time at the last startup that I was at. And then when we started Summer Fellowship, I believe actually I had quit that and started Phoenix full time, as well as Mikey Martin joined me as well. And we were still figuring out a lot on what to do and how to move forward and what we're going. And I just wanted to say everyone was so helpful. You guys really helped us understand, okay, what is the approach that you're taking and how are you building your business? Not just a cool piece of technology that if you build it, someone will come, but actually a business that solves a real problem in the world. So just as before I go on too much, I'll give you guys a little bit of context. I did prepare a slide, which I was very excited about. By prepare, I used our pitch deck for our investor meetings. But it's So just to give you guys a little context, Phoenix Tailings was not founded with a core piece of technology in a lab out of MIT or UConn or any place like that. We didn't see this cool technology and say, hey, like, what can we do with it in the world? We saw this huge challenge in the world and how we get raw materials, how we get metal, the base components to everything we have. We saw this and said, hey, how do we get together the right people, the smartest people, the most driven people in the world to find a solution to these horrible problems? The first being carbon emissions. There's over 3.7 gigatons of carbon emissions produced in the mining industry every year. That's 7% of the global carbon emissions, just in that one industry. I bet you've never even thought about that before. And the second is for every ton of metal produced, you have over 9 tons of metal or sludge thrown away. There's 173 billion metric tons of sludge produced every single year. That's enough sludge to cover the entire state of California in a foot deep of toxic waste every single year. And so we got together the right team, and with a little help from Summer Fellowship and then Wolff New Venture Competition, we started building a solution. I'm proud to say that we built our first prototype on $7,000 in the backyard in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but we built our first actual product on the $20,000 we got from the Wolff New Venture Competition. And so that was a really big milestone for us because we were actually able to ship iron particles. So we take this sludge, which is a mixed mixture of a bunch of different materials, full of iron, titanium, aluminum, and rare earth metals. We took out the iron, which is our first actual product, and actually shipped it and sold it to a single customer in India. And that was exactly what we did with that 20,000. So it was very, very helpful for us, really helped us push forward. Since then, we've been able to do a lot of stuff building the business across the board. We've grown the team to 8 people. And we actually, like Michelle mentioned, we do work with the customers now, several customers, which is a big difference than what we were when we started Summer Fellowship and when we started with the UConn programs. So very, very happy about that. And actually the one is one of the top in the world. So we're very excited and things have been moving forward graciously. And I do always have one shameless ask. We are actually hiring right now. We have 5 job openings available to folks, primarily on the engineering front, but always willing to talk to driven people who want to change the world in some fashion. So take a look at our website, reach out to us. We always love to meet some new folks, especially from the UConn ecosystem. But seriously, always want to say thank you so much for everything that the UConn ecosystem gave to us. We had MIT back at support a while back. We had Northeastern support, but I will always say UConn was the first group that actually really believed in us and was the first group to really push us forward. And it was the best possible ecosystem we could have been a part of. So thank you so much.
Awesome. It's great to hear from you, Nick, and thank you for taking the time to come back and join us this evening. I know Mike's on the line as well. So, hey, Mike. Quick question for you. I mean, you talked a lot about what you've been able to accomplish in the last year. And I know while each of the 5 teams is kind of anxiously awaiting for news of the judge's decision, I'm wondering if you might be able to offer them some advice about how they should use the next year ahead of them. And if you had to kind of rewind to yourself in their shoes this time last year, anything kind of spring to mind about how to make their dreams take off?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing I always say is you have to understand your customers. And that was the #1 biggest thing that Summer Fellowship, AU, and Techstars actually, when we went through the program, they really forced us to do that. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot, but it really means a lot to actually just push for it and go talk to customers. Don't just look online and say, hey, like, what are these mining companies? What are they into? Actually go ask them, like high level people, go and talk to them, have a beer, have a coffee, or have anything with them and hang out and talk to them, get their insight, get their thoughts. That's so powerful. Your network is your #1 most important asset as an entrepreneur. Is the absolute most important thing I can say for any entrepreneur pushing forward. Just build your network, talk to them, build real relationships. The second is also never give up. I will say we have a long way to go, but I think we've done a little bit of good stuff in the past year or so. And it's been a roller coaster. There were times when I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And there are other times where I'm jumping out for joy. So no matter what happens, keep pushing, give it your all. I played baseball in college, so I always like to give baseball analogies, but the best quote I always had was leave everything on the field. And I think that was the best quote I've ever had. I always think about it when we're building Phoenix is give 100% of everything so that when you're done, even if it doesn't work out, you gave every single thing to it. There was nothing else you could have done. So Wish you the best.
Nice. So we heard from Janoy that he's got the long nights and weekends crew. We heard from Peter that he gets no sleep, and we've seen from the rest of tonight's presenters that they're obviously super passionate about it, which is part the way there. Tell me. I'm just super curious because when I first encountered you guys, right, about a year and a half ago, I'm thinking, how are these like college kids or recent graduates, right, going to get the attention of global mining megaliths, right? And you've been actually able to do that. So when you say connect with your customer, I can't imagine like a little bit more of an intimidating group of people. This is not, people who you can encounter walking down the street or that kind of stuff. How did you actually get into the networks where you could make the connections to be able to do that effectively? I'm thinking that the rest of the audience might feel like there's some lessons to be learned in there.
Yeah. So for I can speak from our experience very specifically, and it's ultimately we went to conferences. I just talked to every person, and I went to the bars at the end of the day and just kept talking. And eventually some people listened, and I listened more to about what they're doing too. Actually, I always make the joke that I think we got our first customer because simply the fact that I drink a lot of Corona beer. So I was at the bar talking to him and listening, just wanting to learn more about his job, more about his life, any thoughts he had. Turns out he was the #1 person in the aluminum industry. Got a hold of him. He really connected us around. Started talking to some other guys. They were all retired. They just liked what we're doing, cool stuff. I was just nice, trying to be humble about it and not talk their ear off too much, although I probably did. And we had a few of those interactions, kept pushing forward, and Techstars were really helpful with that too. Actually, through a couple of our connections, we ended up having a presentation to the advisors of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, which was pretty cool. We're still working on that deal, so it's intriguing. He was an interesting man. So it's you're always surprising about who your friends know, and if you keep building actual relationships with people, and just keeping asking them and talking about anything, and being helpful where you can, it's always surprising where it can go. So I always encourage people to just literally have coffee with beer, have a 15-minute conversation with absolutely anyone, tell them about what you're doing, ask them if they know anyone in the space.
That's awesome. I can't tell you how rewarding it is to hear you pair it back, ask questions, lead with questions, right? Not a sales pitch. So nice work. Congratulations. We're so pleased for you, and we can't wait to see what's next. So please stay in touch. Deal?
Deal.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Now it is my pleasure to hand the mic over to Greg Wolff. We've heard a lot about the difference that the Wolff family has made in the entrepreneurship ecosystem here at UConn, and certainly in transforming the CCEI Fellowship into a program that's truly catalytic for so many of the people that have been a part of it. So Greg, welcome to this evening's event. Thank you, and Gary, and the rest of your family, as always, for all the support that you provide us year in and year out. And I understand that there's actually a decision that's been reached by the judges.
Yes, I think that's the case. So that's exciting. Thank you, Michelle. And hopefully, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be sure. Well, first off, congrats to the 5 presenters. They did a fantastic job. And, we heard Nick, and you can understand why he won last year. And these presenters honestly reminded me a lot of Nick last year when he did his beautiful job at the Wolff Award competition. The Wolff competition was really our dad's vision 30 plus years ago. He wanted to try and see if UConn could have a minor in entrepreneurship. Well, here we are 30 plus years later, and entrepreneurship has become a focus not only for UConn, not only for colleges across the country, not only as a buzzword, but as I heard tonight, our own Connecticut senator is focusing on entrepreneurship, so that's pretty cool. My brother Gary, who's on the phone tonight, and my sister Debbie, and our mom, we're all very proud to be a part of this exciting event with UConn. And just tonight was unbelievable because this was the first time I've ever been a part of a Zoom competition, and it went through flawlessly. It was unbelievable. There are many thank yous that need to be passed out. The first is to Jen Murphy. She organized all of this and behind the scenes spent countless hours. Jen, we thank you. All I can say is, yay, Jen, you did a great job. We also want to thank Tim Folta, who's been very involved with our program over the years, and Dean John Elliott, because they are two of the early supporters and really helped us form the competition, the Wolff Award competition. And we appreciate that support and also your wisdom and guidance as we've gone through this. We want to thank Michelle, who was nice enough to talk to Nick and introduce me. She has been an integral part of this program since day one. She didn't say anything, but she had a baby and was on maternity leave, so congrats to you, Michelle. And then I understand that Rich Dino is retiring, and so Rich was a part of our program, has known our family, was a neighbor of my brother Gary's for many years, and we want to thank Rich for his support over the years as well. Finally, we want to thank the judges. We've had lots of panels over the years. I have to say that the questions that the judges asked this year were phenomenal. They showed great interest in the participants, and I thank you because I learned a lot by listening to the answers to those questions. Our family have been entrepreneurs for over 80 years. Our grandfather came back from Germany to the United States, and he was an entrepreneur. Our dad in his heyday had 5 companies, 5 very successful large companies going on at one time and managing each of those as an entrepreneur. And he passed that down to us as children. And we have tried to carry on that torch with our businesses and our passion for entrepreneurship. And one of the things we really believe is that entrepreneurship is something when you're young is the best time to start. Not that you can't start anytime, but being young and enthusiastic, it really helps with that. So again, congratulations to all of the participants. Whether you win or you don't win, just remember this, that you are going to be successful no matter what. And without any further ado, the winner is Pisces Atlantic. Congratulations.
Maybe we can, do you guys want to unmute yourselves and actually clap because it feels very anticlimactic for me.
Hey!
All right, my friend is with me. You got a little too carried away. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
This is life-changing. It's I can't tell if this is a dream or not right now.
It's real.
That's great. You deserve it. You did a
This
great
means
job.
the world to me.
Great job by
I
all.
cannot thank you enough.
Hey, Peter, there is one thing we ask, and Nick is the best that's ever done this. This is Gary Wolff. We ask you to stay in touch. Nick, you've been fabulous. You keep sending us emails and updates, and we're thrilled to see them, read them, and hear about you. And we ask all of you actually to do that as you progress on your journey.
Of course, anything. Thank you guys so much.
This was a great night. I can't tell you how exciting it was to do a Zoom competition and have it go flawlessly. So kudos to Jen and to all those who made it happen. And obviously, congrats to all of you. You did a fantastic job.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right. Once again, congratulations, everybody. We're so proud of you. Everyone, please stay in touch. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us on a Monday night. And we look forward to inviting you back to more events at CCEI in the near future. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.